Welcome to the SDR DiscoCall podcast, a podcast designed for brand new sales development reps in the world of software as a service. Every Tuesday, we're going to be bringing you a new guest who's still in the role to share how or why they've gone into sales development. What have they learned in their SDR career and journey to date? And what 3 pieces of information would they like to share back to new and existing reps to help them become happy sellers? Every show is transcribed, recorded with links from the guests, which are available at happyselling.io/podcast. I'm going to be your host, Neil Buyan, and I look forward to taking you into the world of sales development through the SDR DiscoCall podcast. Hello, all you happy podders and listeners. So today we're taking your minds and ears back to November 2020, where we met the SDR who was responsible for the hashtag SDRs of LinkedIn viral challenge, the one and only enterprise SDR, Ellie Twigger from SalesLoft. We're going to be hearing about how she fell into sales selling courses, being an SDS specialist at Forrester working alongside the legendary Stratford Canning, also her story of how she booked an enterprise meeting with the CEO of Marks & Spencer's using video, how she sold SalesLoft internally at Forrester, which then led her on to a job at SalesLoft, but having a heart-to-heart with Ollie Sharp, but also the amazing welcome from Kyle Porter, their CEO, how they got through lockdown together as a team, best practices for onboarding, and how Ellie likes to keep it real. So with that in mind, let's begin. Hello listeners, it's your host here, Neil Buyan, and today we've got a very bubbly character and somebody I've been looking forward to having into our show at the SDR DiscoCall podcast. Today we're going to be having Ellie Twigger from SalesLoft. Ellie is somebody that I connected through on LinkedIn. We had a bit of a chat a few weeks ago. She's got a super cool story, and most recently she's had some good news, but there are so many exciting nuggets that we're going to get in today. But Ellie, welcome to the SDR DiscoCall podcast. How are you doing today?
Hey, I am doing really well. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much for being a guest. So, Ellie, for the people that can't see you but can hear you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, who are you? Where are you currently working? What do you do? And a little bit of interesting information about yourself.
Of course. So, like you said, I'm Ellie. I'm an SDR currently at SalesLoft. I've been with the company now for 8 months. And the exciting news is that I've recently been promoted into the enterprise segment. So really excited to start this new journey in my SDR career. A little bit about SalesLoft. We're a sales engagement platform, just basically helping SDRs do their job every day. That's as simple as it gets. I love it. A little bit about myself. I have a new puppy. Well, she's not new anymore. She's now 9 months old, but she's crazy. So if you hear her barking, she is downstairs, but apologies. She's crazy, but she's kept me sane during lockdown. And honestly, I can't imagine life without her now. I completely get what they say. A dog is a man's best friend, because she is like my best friend.
Oh, I love it. And again, all pets and dogs are welcome to this show, so we have no problems with that. And yes, I think that your puppy is a bit of a celebrity on LinkedIn. It's kind of how I found you with a video with your puppy falling asleep when you was giving a lovely pitch.
Yeah.
But again, thank you so much for joining. So you're based out here in the UK. Whereabouts are you in London? Whereabouts in the UK you, Ellie?
I actually live in Kent. I'm a born and bred Kent girl. Live very close to my friends and family. Used to live in London, obviously used to work before lockdown in London. But I'm a Kent girl.
Love it. Sorry, through and through. Welcome to the show. So, Ellie, like when I was looking at your LinkedIn, I'd seen that you've had a bit of an experience and a journey before you got to SalesLoft. So I saw that you was working at the Oxford International Group, you're working for Bucksmore, you had a stint at Forrester, you were somebody that's involved with the SDRs of London, and then obviously, like you say, you've been at SalesLoft for the last 8 or 9 months. What was that journey like? Like, what happened from, like, you came out of studying and then you kind of, went into this journey? Like, how did you get to where you are today?
So I studied English and drama at university, and at the time, I thought I really want to be an actress. I want to be in films. I want to be on the stage. And then it kind of all fell through when I got to university, because I thought I don't actually want to be an actress. I loved it. I loved performing, loved plays, but I thought the last thing I want to do is actually do this for a career. And I read somewhere that you should have a hobby, but it shouldn't be what you love. It shouldn't, because you'll then fall out of love with it. So I decided to carry on, obviously, my studies. And then when I left, I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do. During my summers at university, I used to work with the Oxford International Group, and I used to help them run language courses for international students, and I did the activity side. So we'd have huge groups of students from, say, Italy, China, Spain, all coming over to take their language lessons, and then I would run all the activities. I'd do tour trips, take them to London, take them to Windsor, and then I would teach them a little bit about the area. And I loved that because I got to meet so many people of different nationalities. I got to talk to them about, what they were doing. Obviously, they were at school, they wanted to learn English. And that was really fun. But then I thought, I can't do this every summer. I need a proper job.
Yeah.
So I went traveling for 3 months. I traveled Australia and I traveled Hawaii. That was amazing. But then when I came back, I thought, I need a job now. So I contacted Oxford International, and they referred me to one of their the company within Oxford International, which was Buxmore. Now, Buxmore was amazing because they ran their own schools, but they also had what is called a home tuition side, where you would go and live and learn with your teacher.
Oh, wow.
And I got the job that I would organise the courses. So I basically did sales without realising I did sales. I would place students in teachers' houses. I would make sure the course ran smoothly. I would respond to agent inquiries. I would sell the course, but I had no idea I was selling. I had no idea I was in sales. And then I realised, I am in sales. But I had missed out that whole pre-sales bit, that sales development side. I was doing the closing, I was reaching targets, but I wasn't doing anything to do with sales development. And I thought, if I'm going to have a career in sales, I need to explore all elements.
Nice.
So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and be an SDR. At Forrester, they were called SDSs at the time. And
what does SDS stand for?
It was Sales Development Specialist.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that sounded really posh. I thought that sounded really posh. So I thought, I applied for the job, got the job, pre-GDPR days, go in.
When life was easy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mass mail, loads of people. And that was really fun. And I learned how to run discovery calls. I learned how to do elements of being an SDR. And I was working with an amazing guy called Stratford Canning, and he basically taught me everything about being an SDR. He, especially as I was in that role, GDPR came into place, so we had to completely strip back and change our entire processes. The majority of the team left, so it was just me and him. So we were just building it up from scratch. And that was really fun. I was working on huge companies, Marks and Spencer's, John Lewis, all the big retailers. Actually, one of my winning story from Forrester was that I sent a video to the CEO of Marks and Spencer's. I love video. I'll talk about this in a bit.
Yeah.
And the CEO played it in his board of directors meeting. What? Because he loved it so much. This CEO that I've seen on the telly, I thought, you know what, I'll send him a video.
Yeah.
And he sent it, and he played it in his board of directors meeting. And then I got some emails from like the CIO, the CMO, all this stuff coming back to me, which I thought was really sweet, really nice. So that just kind of shows that you don't always have to go bottom up. You can go top down as an SDR. Yep. So loved being an SDR there. Was really fortunate to get promoted to be an associate account executive. I was working in the Nordic and Benelux region. Absolutely loved it. Got to travel, got to meet lots of different people. And I then discovered I actually discovered SalesLoft when I was an SDR. I demoed the platform. I fell head over heels in love with the platform. I've never experienced anything where you demo a product and you think, oh my gosh, I need to use it. I need this this product. And I was telling all my friends about it, whoever was in sales, you need to look at SalesLoft. You need to buy SalesLoft. I was selling it so much internally. Even when I was an account executive, I was trying to sell it and bring it into the company. And I had this moment where I thought, why, if I'm selling it this much internally, why don't I just go and work for the company? So they just
moment, right?
It was honestly a light bulb moment. And I thought at the time they weren't hired, they didn't have any jobs. They just opened their London office. Looked like they had a great team. And I did some research on LinkedIn, found out that the guy I needed to speak to was an incredible guy called Ollie Sharp. So I dropped him, I kind of prospected him, dropped him a LinkedIn message saying, hey, I'm in love with your company. I'd love to come and work with you.
Nice.
He said, great timing, Ellie. We've got some jobs coming up in the next month, so let's chat. And then, but he said to me, what role do you want? Because I see that you're an account executive. Do you want a closing role here? And I said, well yeah, obviously. And he said, Ellie, I'm going to be so straightforward with you. You're not the right fit for this. Here at SalesLoft, we're selling to majority tech companies and it's small business. Your experience from the looks of it is B2C companies, big enterprise companies, bit of a different fit. And he was like, would you come in and be an SDR? And at the time, you know, some people are like, oh, SDR's so behind me, I don't need to do that. But because I love being an SDR, I love the science behind sales development. And I think now I've fallen more and more in love with the whole idea of sales development. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna apply to be an SDR and learn this whole new world. So yeah, 8 months ago, joined, start of lockdown, best decision I ever made. And here I am.
Woohoo! That is an amazing story. You've gone through so many different experiences there. Like you said, you were doing selling without realizing that you were selling when you was building out those courses. You obviously went into Forrester, so that, for those that don't know, huge global research company that a lot of tech companies lean towards to find out who good vendors are when they're looking for specific tools or within industry. And a lot of salespeople read Forrester reports. But like you said, he was building out this function with Stratford. Stratford's somebody I know. He's the only reason that I joined the SDR leaders on Slack earlier this year, because I was looking for inspiration and insight. So top man, Stratford, if you're listening in, big shouts out to you as well. But like you said, you came across the tool that you now work for, or the platform solution at SalesLoft, because you were an end user. You were a complete avid fan of it. And to your point, you reached out to Ollie, you prospected him, and you stroked his ego, said, I really love your company, I'd love to work for you. But he kept it real with you. Like, he was being honest and saying, like, based on currently where you are and currently where you want to go, it might not be a fit. And I think a lot of people that are going through recruitment at the moment, especially around lockdown, they're trying to get as many people through the door, but kind of saying, do you know what, I want this to be the right thing for you. And then, as you said, you're a fan of sales development, and so am I. We're big fans of this function, that you're able to now learn these things, go through it at a really great company. And you've grown in a positive way, a lot of notoriety as being really like a cool SDR to connect with, and you're always sharing your insights. But what was it like coming into lockdown, into this tech company? It was a completely different world to, say, working at Forrester. What was that transition like, and how was it? How were you onboarded? What was going through your mind?
I'll be honest, I've never experienced anything like it. It is like a family. And it's funny because you read, obviously, reviews. I was speaking to people in my interview and they were saying, it's like, you won't know it until you're here, but it is like a family. And when I'm kind of interviewing people and talking to people, I say the exact same thing. It is a family. The thing that stood out for me more than anything was on my first day, obviously the time difference. We're going to start of a pandemic. They have this huge conference every year that they were looking at cancelling. And so that was on top of everyone's mind. Obviously, so much money had gone into this. My first day, Ollie knows me very well. He knows how excited I get. And he said, just come into this room, come in, because this was while we were still in the office. And he sat me down and he left me in there. And all of a sudden, up on the screen popped our CEO, Carl Porter. And he'd come into the office, especially early, 7 a.m. their time, midday our time, just to welcome me.
Wow.
And I was like, Carl, what you're currently you're deciding what to do with your events and all this, like you must have so much going on, why do you want to speak to me? And he was like, of course I want to speak to you, like you're new to the company, I want to welcome you properly. And that meant so much to me that I was like, we had like a half an hour chat about my experience. He was talking to me a bit about SalesLoft and what his vision art is, and I was like, this is just, I've never experienced anything like that. Obviously, the team is so welcoming, and especially here in EMEA, we have such talented people to learn from. And straight away, I knew when I walked in that I was going to learn from each individual person. But obviously, lockdown hits, and I was a bit nervous. I thought, I'm new to the company. How am I going to build relationships with people if I'm not with them every day? How am I going to listen to discovery calls? How am I going to do cold calling? You know, all those SDR things that you really need to be next to another SDR for. We kind of got through that. Every morning we would have a meeting where we'd share what we'd done for the day. We look a lot about what we've done for ourselves mentally and physically, not just talking about work. So I felt like I was getting to know everyone. And then I had my 3 weeks onboarding, and oh my God, it was insane. 3 weeks intense with our sales enablement team in the US, and hands down to them, they are some of the best people I've ever come across. I thought, obviously I was experienced, I'd been a closer. I thought, no, they can't teach me anything. I know what I'm doing. They taught me so much. They made me rethink everything about how I target an account, how I target a prospect, how I start that conversation. And I didn't feel like I was in onboarding. I felt like I was just, like, I was excited every day to do my classes, to do my homework. And I think that's one thing with an SDR is when you're looking at joining a company, make sure it is with a company that you know you will love the product. Because even now when I'm working, I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like I talk about a product that I love, and I never feel like I'm going to work. I feel like I'm just kind of just sharing my hashtag on LinkedIn is spreading the sales love, sorry. That's what I think I'm doing. I'm just spreading the message of SalesLoft. So the onboarding was fantastic. And then we were kind of not thrown out, but it was like, right, off you go and
do the thing,
go be an SDR. And that was great as well, because you realize how many people actually need sales engagement in their lives. So you're having very meaningful conversations. I feel very lucky that I'm one of the few SDRs that use a product that they get to sell. I use SalesLoft every day. I also get to sell SalesLoft. So a lot of my conversations, they haven't really been discovery calls. It's been best practice sessions of, okay, how are your SDRs using it? How are your sales reps using? How are they prospecting? And then I can talk a little bit about how I do it. So I never feel like I'm in one of those, strict discovery calls where you have to tick off this. I just feel like I'm having a chat. Like a virtual cup of tea in a conversation like this.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Like you said, you're not really having a discovery call, you're sharing best practices. And I think those are where the best conversations have. So again, with SalesLoft, you're probably going to be speaking to like sales leaders or even marketing leaders around messaging, how do we connect with our customers, etc. And to your point as an SDR, if you're that first line conversation and you're saying, do you know what? This is currently what's working for me. You can even give your own examples of using your own platform and strategies and techniques, because that way you're not really selling the platform so much. The platform is what enables you to do all those great things. But like you said, not having to tick off a sheet. Did I ask the right situational question? Did I ask enough pain questions? Did I summarize enough, etc.? But having a human conversation with another human person, I think that's absolutely beautiful. And what I'd love to hear at the beginning of that also was Kyle got some time down for you, even though that he's a CEO, he's a busy guy.
Oh, so very busy.
Yeah. And I remember when I was a young SDR many years ago, and I saw Kyle building out SalesLoft, and he really did stand out to me like way back in the day when what he was trying to build. And I had a lot of admiration for him, and to see where it is today, but to hear that he's still giving time to have a chat with you and welcome, that's friggin' amazing. And you mentioned obviously with the whole onboarding experience. Again, granted, I've spoken to a lot of SDRs in the last few weeks where onboarding is part of a process, especially during lockdown. You've got time to learn now. But when you're saying that, like with the team based out in the US that were training you and helping you learn things that you think you didn't need to learn, but it did open your eyes to a lot of things. What would you say really makes a good onboarding process for an SDR? What key things are there to be learned, and how do you best learn?
I think obviously asking good questions, but kind of teaching you to ask questions in a non-interrogatory way. I think that's how you say it. Like you're not interrogating someone, but you need to find this information. Again, you do need to source specific information from them, but it's about how you have that conversation. The other thing as well is the most important thing is teaching SDRs humility. Is I think is that's the word, isn't it? Humility. I think it is.
How so if you could explain when you mean humility, like how would you
how
translate
to be a human? Just teaching them how to be a human, in the sense that, I think that's the word, sorry, that you call up someone and you cold called someone and you've interrupted their day. Just be a human, have a conversation with them. And the other thing as well with the onboarding is obviously we learn how to demo SalesLoft. Even though I don't run the demos, I learned how to demo SalesLoft. And I find that's really important because, again, for the future, let's say I want to go down the route of account executive, account management, customer success, I'm going to need to be demoing it. I always feel like I've already got a kickstart of it. And it's also, the one thing that I found really interesting with the onboarding was they didn't kind of segment SDRs away from account executives. We were all together. So we all learned the same things. So that obviously if the time comes and you want to move into that next role, you've had that same start as everyone else. And the last thing as well is kind of looking at, is just onboarding and getting to know each other. We would, I feel like I've built some fantastic relationships with colleagues across the pond that I met during my onboarding, but I may never have spoken to. So yeah, I think my main takeaway is obviously building relationships, being human, and learning everything about the platform that you need to.
You're right. I totally agree with all of those. And I think that's an interesting piece that you say about learning how to demo your own solution and not to segregate yourselves from AEs and SDRs. Like everybody goes through the same experience, learns the same thing. Because I get asked by a lot of VPs of sales, like when I do training and coaching, like Neil, with the SDRs, obviously they're focusing on pipeline gen and trying to book meetings and spark up conversations. Do they really need to be touching the platform too much, or doing presentations? I said, well, put it this way: you as SDRs, you have to basically sell, in essence, a vision of a solution or a new way of working without even showing it in a demo, because you're trying to tee it up for your account exec, right? But I think it's important to know how it works, how certain features and kind of like why people use certain elements of the platform. But if you don't have that hands-on training or you're able to demo it, it's kind of like saying, I'm going to go teach you to play football, but I've never kicked a ball and I don't know how to kick it, but I'm going to try and explain it to you through, some presentations, right? So I think, it is really important. And the humility piece, totally understand it. It's being vulnerable, like being showing that, look, when I get on the call, when I do sales training, I don't say I'm an SDR expert by any stretch. I want to be the idiot in the room. I want to be learning from other people in the room, but showing that I'm interested, I have hunger, I want to learn. I think these are great requisites. And again, it shows that you're human. So when you get on the phone to a VP of sales or somebody and you're like, look, I work with a lot of VPs of sales, they're saying this is currently what's working for them, but I just want to share some ideas and just hear, how does it work for you? Like, what's your secret sauce? And that's where I think you can build a lot of good relationships. But like you said, also connecting with other people across the pond, people that you may have not had the chance to normally speak to, but you're putting yourself out there. And that kind of nicely comes into the next piece of putting yourself out there, because you are somebody quite famous on LinkedIn, because you recently came up with, actually, well, rather than me going on about it, what are we talking about here, Ellie? Do you know?
Is it my hashtag SDRs of LinkedIn challenge?
That's the one. Please. It's something I've participated in, and I've got a few of my SDR mates to jump in on. But how on earth did this come about, and what sparked that creativity?
Absolutely. This was a random thought I had in the shower. I know, right, everyone has it. You have random thoughts in the shower. And I thought, imagine if the one thing that I find is that there are so many SDRs out there. I'm part of a group called SDRs of London. I'm one of the hosts, and we've got I think 200 members, SDRs, in our WhatsApp group. And every day people are asking questions and sharing ideas. But I realized that there's not kind of a place where you share your tips and tricks, because everyone has individual tips and tricks. My tips are very different to yours, and that's links into at the end, like if we talk about those tips and tricks, you all have tips and tricks to share. And I thought, what if it was like this ice bucket challenge, obviously, where you nominate people? I wanted to see people posting on LinkedIn, posting their ideas. So I brought it up in our we have a host meeting once a week where we discuss like our ideas for the group. And I shared it and they were like, go for it. Like, I love it. And I recorded it and I thought, oh, people aren't going to do this. So I nominated 3 people and they all did it. And then they all nominated 3 people and then they all nominated 3 people. And the whole idea was that I wanted to fill everyone's timeline with SDRs of LinkedIn sharing their ideas. So what the whole concept was, you either recorded a video or you did a post. You had to be as creative as possible. The one thing I loved was I received a lot of messages from people saying, I've never posted on LinkedIn until now, and I've just posted my first video, and it's kind of like ripping off the plaster. Once you've done it, I've then seen them post more and more and more, and I just thought that's amazing for me, because it's amazing for them to put themselves out there. And you type in hashtag SDRs of LinkedIn and loads of videos and posts, and that all comes up. And even now, I mean, it went over to the US, it went across in Sweden, it went across Europe. Even now, I receive messages from people being like it's crazy, because I did a search and I think there's like 100,000 SDRs. That's just sales development rep. That's not including BDRs or other terms. Globally, we can all learn from each other. And LinkedIn, I believe, is the place where we can all learn from each other. So I'm actually creating at the moment, maybe this is like a little bit of an insight, I'm actually creating a document of everyone's tips and tricks to share with people. That if you participated, I'm included your tips and tricks.
Wicked.
And then people can learn from it, especially for new SDRs who are just starting out, who are like, oh my God, what the hell is this? What the hell is this role? They can have a look at it.
Love it. That is one of the coolest stories that I've heard so far on the show. The impact that you have made, it has literally spreaded like wildfire, because I'll be honest with you, like when I saw a few people like posting, I was like, what's this? I don't know about this. And then I saw quite a few SDRs that I know like doing the challenge, and I was like, I feel kind of left out. I want to be in this, but I'm not an SDR anymore. I'm an SDR coach. And then a good friend, Corey Lindsay from G2, he finally nominated me. I was like, yes, get to do it. But like you said, like from an entrepreneurial thought in the shower, it then came into fruition, and you said, I don't know if people are actually going to, take part in this. But I love that whole ice bucket challenge, because that did take social media by storm. And like you said, it's had a positive knock-on effect. So you tag 3 people, then another 3 people. And do you know what? Similar to my post, I tagged people that are in my own post that I knew were slightly nervous about putting their face on a camera and, recording something and put it onto LinkedIn. But as you said, people are now building that confidence. They're like, oh, I'm not the only person doing it. But what I've just heard come from your mouth, which has made me so happy, is that you're collating all of these best practices to then obviously share out with other people. I think I'm fully on board and support it. So when it comes out, let me know. I'll be happy to post the hell out of it everywhere. But I think another thing that I was speaking to a happy selling client earlier this morning, and they were saying to me, like, we've created playbooks, best practices for SDRs. And I kind of said to them, one of the challenges with SDR playbooks is they can become very outdated very quickly. And I said equally like with COVID, because we've had to find new strategies of finding numbers, how to connect with people, because everybody's working from home and not everybody wants to be connected. But I think what you've got there will be very fresh. How are you guys going to be, keeping it up to date or like sharing it out with people? If you don't mind me asking, what's the plans to like share it with the world?
Do you mean in terms of with SalesLoft?
With SalesLoft, well, as in, sharing it with SDRs to get all this information.
Oh, what do you mean? The content?
Yes, the content.
Oh, so I think, to be honest, I'm going to put it on my LinkedIn and just say if anyone wants it to message me. And I'd like to encourage people to kind of build relationships, and I'll link the people who have taken part, and then they can connect with each other and that. I think as well, I think LinkedIn is an amazing place where I always describe it as, imagine all of your prospects in one room and you're just handing out your business card to everyone and everyone's taking it, obviously. And this is why I really encourage SDRs to always use LinkedIn. That's obviously the selling piece, but from a networking piece, I myself know I've learned so much on LinkedIn. So I'm definitely just going to pull it out there, and if anyone wants a copy of it, to let me know and I can share it with them. Or maybe in the future I might just publicly put it on my LinkedIn and then consistently add, and then people know there's a place for them to constantly refer back to. I haven't quite decided how to share it yet.
No worries. But again, when it's out, let us know. And even by the point that when we release your show on here, we're happy to put links into the show notes of this podcast. So anything to help out in that, we'd love to do it. And you're right. You've learned there is an element of networking and selling on LinkedIn. And the networking piece, I learned a lot from you, if I'm honest, more recently, and it's to do with your profile picture. So as an SDR trainer, I'm always telling SDRs that they should always put a professional picture that kind of mirrors the people that they're trying to sell to. So if you're selling to suits, then it makes sense to wear a suit. If you're selling to developers and hackers, etc., then wear t-shirts or startup vibes. But you posted something the other day where you had a professional picture, but you then wanted to put a picture of you at home, like the real Ellie. And at first I was like, no, I wouldn't do that because, it doesn't conform to like what Neil thinks. But then I read your post further and I was like, do you know what? She's right. Because a lot of us are now remote, we're working from home. But what got you the courage to change it and, write about it? What prompted you to do that, Ellie?
So it's quite funny. When I started out in sales, I had a profile picture and it was me at a wedding. And it was probably the only picture where I don't look a bit like, I have a very Wallace and Gromit smile. It's very big, so my natural smile is very big, and it was the only picture I had where I'm not doing my Wallace and Gromit smile. So that was my LinkedIn profile, and then everyone was like, Ellie, you really need a professional photo. Like, so I was working at a very corporate organization, so it was, again, before a wedding, but it was more of like we spent about an hour doing these headshots, and I had about 50 photos, and I spent ages, the final 4, the final 2, the final 1, updated it. But I kept looking at it during lockdown and I thought, I've not worn a dress and heels in months. Obviously in that picture I'm wearing a dress and heels. I normally just put on a top, put on some trousers. I'd be lucky if they're jeans. They're normally some like joggers, whatnot. And I'm just doing my work. And I thought, this is me right now. I'm not wearing a dress. I'm not always put together. I'm not always made up. So I thought, you know what? And that picture that I uploaded, I'm actually wearing the same top in it. I had to self-isolate because I came into contact with someone with COVID. So I was self-isolating at home and I was going absolute gaga. I couldn't even walk my dog because you're not allowed to leave. And my mum was really worried about me. She hadn't seen me. She said, are you okay, Ellie? And I just sent her that selfie just to say, look, I'm fine. Like, I'm still smiling. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to upload my LinkedIn picture like that because that is me right now on the sofa or in my office working. That is, if you're going to take a discovery call with me, this is the picture you're going to get. Yeah. You'll be right. You're right. I got very mixed reviews. I got some messages from people being like, you should definitely change it back to your old picture. And I probably will. When this is all over, I probably will change it back to my old picture. But for now, that new photo represents me. And it represents my current environment working from home. And that's why I changed it.
Dude, like, well done. And if anything, I respect it. And I think only change it if you feel that you need to change it. But I agree with you. You got to keep it real. You got to keep it current, because equally, if you have a picture which looks completely different, and then you go on an online meeting with your prospect and they connect you, they're like, oh, who are you?
Yeah, exactly. A bit of catfish.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like telling your mum that, you know what, I'm cool. Here's a picture of me. I'm up to date. I think you've done well. And yeah, it challenged me. It takes a lot to challenge me because I can sometimes be so rigid in my ways. But I think, you know what? Hats off to you. Like, keep it the way you think it should be done. Keep it you.
As well, when I look back at the kind of professional photo, for so long, when I was in previous roles, I tried to be someone that I wasn't. I tried to be really professional. I tried to be really well spoken. I'm very eloquent, very put together. And if anyone knows me, that is not me at all.
Yeah.
I like wearing bright colors. I love unicorns. I love rainbows. I love glitter. So the new picture, I think, just represents me a bit more rather than a professional put together picture. I'm not that put together. Obviously in my job I am, but just in the day to day, that I think the new picture represents me a bit more.
So like you said, making it human, right?
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Humans buy from humans. I say this to everyone. Humans buy from humans. Be a human. Be yourself, because you're going to get caught out one day.
100% agree, Beep. And you don't want to have fake, you don't want to give a fake identity to somebody. You want to keep it real, because I think I've done it as well, where I have a particular telephone voice where I'm very eloquent and I'm well spoken. And then when I'm doing certain I actually notice it because I watch recordings back on myself when I do classes, and I'm like, Neil, why are you talking like that? You sound like a robot. But yeah, to keep it real. So I really do respect that, and I think it should be the same. And like you said, there's a time and place to be professional and proper and prim. But yeah, I think it's equally for SDRs. We want to mirror our audience. You know, we don't want to up talk or be something that we're not.
No.
But there's another interesting piece that I am an SDR by heart, so I watch stuff on LinkedIn. And you recently kind of put up like the bloopers of your recorded video, and that made me laugh, and it made me so happy to watch. But for those that aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, could you give us a little bit of insight? What was the blooper reel all about?
So I have been doing videos for years. Even in my time in Forrester, I'm a huge fan of Vidyard, but really any video tool to send videos. I'm all about, like I said, being a human. So one thing that I love in my prospecting is putting a face to a name and sending videos, introducing myself. And I had this moment where I was talking to some new SDRs, and they were like, "Oh, we won't send videos because we mess up, and we spend about 30 times doing a video." And they said, I did a video prospecting session, and they said, "How do you just seem so well put together? You just seem like it's really natural." And I was like, "It's not. I mean, you're just seeing the face of it. I have times where I swear a lot. I scream. I just go, oh, you know." So I put it together, this video, and I adapted it, and I mean that was a small amount of the actual bloopers that I could actually use. So I just put together a quick snippet. I didn't think it was going to go get as many likes or attraction as it did, but it was actually my colleague suggested the music. He was like, "You should really put a funny music to it," because without the music it just seemed like me just being me. But the music, I think, kind of adds an element to it. And I kind of think, if you can't laugh at yourself, what can you do? So I thought the reason why I put it out there was just to show other SDRs that the most professional video that you think has probably had about 4 takes or 5 takes. It's not all as glistening or put together as you think it is, but to not give up and to keep going. And I wouldn't deem myself a professional, but I've been making videos for a long time. And even I sometimes have to retake it 10 retakes, 20 retakes.
Yeah, I feel your pain. I was recording a video this morning that I put on LinkedIn, multiple takes, and my phone went off. I was coughing and I was going, making weird faces at the camera. And I agree that it's really good because people don't just want to see a polished, finished product. They want to know what's the effort that goes into it. And I think, again, to your point, being human, being real, that shows an element of humility, vulnerability to show, we're not all perfect and polished. Like, it does take a bit of graft to do it.
Yeah.
And equally, when I do LinkedIn stories or Instagram stories, I put in the bloopers as well.
Yeah.
Because it's funny to watch and like to see what end product did it come in. And it's something I've learned as well, to keep it real. That's what your followers and people that find your information useful, they just don't want just polished. No. They want the real side of you. So I think you do that really well. So I'm a big fan of your posts, and I'm going to keep watching them. And as we're coming towards the end of our show, and it's been a great show so far, and definitely want to have you back on in the future, there's 2 points that I wanted to touch upon. First one was, you mentioned like SDRs of London. and being a host in that. And probably there are some SDRs that are listening to this right now. I'd love to know how, if I was an SDR, how do I get involved with it? What's it all about? And could you give us a little bit of pitch?
Absolutely. So the SDRs of London is basically a group set up by my colleagues, not my colleagues, my friends over at Wiser, and it's basically just a home for SDRs to collaborate and share ideas. Pre-COVID, they used to meet up and have, beers and talks. Now, during the lockdown, the first lockdown, they were doing some sessions online where they would get, people who are seen as thought leaders in the space to come in and talk to other SDRs. But it's basically a place for you to get to know each other. And I've seen as well on the WhatsApp group, some people say, oh, I'm selling to IT professionals, I'm selling to tech professionals, I'm selling to salespeople. Can we collaborate and share ideas? I've spoken with a lot of other SDRs that I would never have normally spoken to if it wasn't for the SDRs of London group. If people are interested in joining, hit me up on LinkedIn and I can get you added to the group. And I think as well, it's funny because when I explain it to people think, oh, do you use it to prospect? Do you prospect other SDRs? And I'm like, no, I've never actually done that, because I want it to kind of be like a safe space for SDRs to ask those stupid questions, ask the things that they are having trouble with, collaborate, share ideas. There's been some times where people don't agree on ideas, and then it started like a little bit of a debate, but that's all good and that's all healthy. And right now I think that there's not a lot of space where SDRs can be together, and that's especially when you're new. A lot of SDRs are graduates, they're new to the role. It is quite a daunting role. I mean, you're cold calling, you're reaching out to people that you've never spoken to before. You're probably going to face a lot of rejection. And as somebody in your new role, that can be quite difficult. So it's about having a place where you can speak to other people. But yeah, if anyone wants to join, let me know and I can get you added.
Thank you so much, Ellie. And definitely I'll put that into the show notes as well. And a question I ask a lot of guests in terms of getting for somebody to reach out to you. I'm somebody that uses Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, email, phone, the whole shebang. I'm on every channel. What's the best channel to reach you on, Ellie?
Probably LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn all the time. I don't really use Facebook. Instagram, not a lot, although I should try. But LinkedIn is the place where I am always on my phone on LinkedIn. Someone actually made a joke to me that they were like, you are literally always on LinkedIn. But in the first thing in the morning, I'm scrolling LinkedIn, but it's because it's a place where you can learn and even when you scroll, you learn things from people to help with your role. Maybe it's just because I'm obsessed with my job, but yeah, I love
it's
LinkedIn.
Not a bad thing. And same way, it's not a bad thing, because I wouldn't have found you unless you was that person scrolling and posting. So you have to be active on these platforms.
Yeah.
I think we have to do things certainly in moderation. That's what I'm looking for. Because again, I can get sucked into LinkedIn for like 4 or 5 hours and I'm like, where the hell is the time gone? But yeah, you learn a lot. It's the biggest free library out there. And the very last piece that I did want to cover on is, obviously you've been an SDR, but now you've gone into an enterprise SDR role. What's the difference and what does it mean to be an enterprise SDR, really?
Enterprise means that you're going after those large accounts that, if your company scores them, it's game changer. It's harder in some ways, in the sense that you really need to understand the account to even set up that individual conversation. I'm all for personalization, so I spend a long time now reading annual reports, finding hooks that I can link back to SalesLoft. The other thing as well is, normally the sales cycle seems to be a lot longer, but I anticipate, I've only been in this role for about a week now, but I anticipate the reward is going to be much higher when the feeling that you've secured this customer, because it's going to be a long sales cycle. I'm working with an incredible AE called Misha at SalesLoft. We're going to be collaborating together on these enterprise accounts. And I'm just really excited to get SalesLoft into these big companies and get them using this platform. We've a lot of commercial organizations already using the sales engagement. So getting it into the bigger companies and having that aha moment when they're like, oh my God, why did we not have this before? Very similar to my aha moment where I thought, oh my God, I need to use this. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Love it. And I'm going to pause it there because this is also, there's a running theme going through our podcast shows at the minute, like working in a dynamic duo, working with a great A. So I also got to give props to Misha. I've worked with Misha on 2 or 3 deals through Happy Selling as well. Super hot. He was like a hot SDR. Worked at Peak and came to Sales Loft. He's super good at what he does, and I've got a lot of time for him. So you can learn a hell of a lot from Misha, but I think he's equally going to learn a hell of a lot from you. But this running theme of, I think I'd love to get you back on the show in the future, where maybe we could do 2 guests, where it's you and Misha.
Love it.
To talk about how you hit the enterprise space, how you work as an SDR, as an AE together as a dynamic duo. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely love that. I'm so down for that. I'm sure Misha will be as well.
Wicked. All right. I'm definitely going to be reaching out to you shortly about that as well. But Ellie, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show and to share your great SDR knowledge. What 3 key takeaways would you give to a younger version of yourself that's just about to embark on this great SDR journey?
I think I've thought about this a long time, and I mean, I could give a lot of advice to my younger self. The first one is not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay. Just carry on being yourself. Don't change for anyone, and don't be a people pleaser. The second one is pick up the phone, but also send emails, also use LinkedIn. Make sure you are using a multi-touch campaign to be where your prospects are. And the last thing is to get out of your box. I've once read this quote that if you are scared of something, do it 100 times and then you won't be scared of it anymore. When I started out, I initially was a bit scared to do video, scared to do these things because I was worried about being rejected. So I spent a day cold calling, being rejected constantly. I spent a day making videos, failing. Get yourself out your box and just keep going and don't give up. So yeah, they're my probably 3 main tips that I'd give to young Ellie. She needed it at the time, but we've got there in the end.
I think those I always hear myself saying, but that was definitely solid advice. Something I need to take note of because, even as an SDR coach, I could still be improving. And I definitely agree with that. Not everybody's going to like you. Practice it, get those hours in, build up that resilience, and get out your comfort zone. I 100% agree with that. Thank you so much. And I know I keep saying this as we're coming to the end of the show, but are there any shout outs that you'd like to give before you leave today, Ellie? I
think, to be honest, my biggest shout out, I shout him out on every single podcast, but I'm going to shout him out again, and that's Ollie Sharp. Ollie, the fact is that he could have so easily, when I approached him about joining Sales Loft, he could have so easily said, no, sorry, you're not ideal for this role. But the fact that he was willing to explore me coming in as an SDR. He's also been so supportive to our entire team, especially during this pandemic lockdown situation, because mental health is so important to him that I honestly don't think we would have got through it without him and his leadership skills. So right now I owe everything to him, and I think we all do. So my shout out is to Ollie Sharp.
You almost brought an SDR tear to my eye then. Ollie is the man. 100% agree with you on that. But Ali, definitely we're going to have to get you back on as a show in the future, hopefully with Misha as a dynamic duo.
Love it.
But thank you so much for being a guest on the SDR DiscoCall podcast. I wish you all the best luck in this new role. And we're going to be watching you closely on LinkedIn, trust me. But yeah, thank you so much, Ellie. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.